him, I was like, and I had to kind of like look it up, and I was like, oh, and they've been here. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah.
So what year are you in?
We're final year.
Yeah.
I know.
Where do you want me?
Is it alright there? Yeah, just because with camera setting up and capturing everyone's face in it and all that jazz.
Absolutely. Good.
Oh, it's so nice. Thank you so much.
Yes.
We're like, we're going to pick our brains to so many things, but we're going to try and limit it, so you can't be here all day. So we may want to steal you again. So yeah, basically, I mean, do you want to start with your questions? Or?
Yeah, sure.
Shall we explain to Sharon? Yeah. What we're going to do for our performance project is Hans Christian Andersen, The Red Shoes. So that's kind of like linked to the fable and folk kind of stories, and we're kind of adapting it to fit in with another story, a story within a story, really, about children and how the red shoes in our story will symbolise sort of youth being taken away from them too soon, and links into the culture at the moment where children are being sort of forced to grow up too quick, too soon. I thought Karen could maybe represent that. So there's going to be these 4 children who are going to, but obviously there'll be students playing kind of younger characters, and they're going to be retelling the story of the red shoes, but it's going to overlap into what's happening to them as well, kind of thing, within the piece. And it's going to be set within a church, hopefully. We get the venue, and that links to kind of an oppressive stance, especially for Hans Christian Andersen, who found Christian faith quite oppressive, but also was very geared by it. So it's kind of all that oppressive, children being oppressed, not being able to feel creative sometimes, and if they do, they get kind of like, no, you can't, you need to grow up a bit more quicker than maybe they'd want to.
So it's
that's kind of the premise.
It's going to be an immersive piece, and there's going to be a lot of tech, because we're co-directing, but I'm doing the technical aspects of everything, and Andy's writing. So I'm really interested to ask you all about tech, because it's something that I really enjoy doing, but like to try and put it in on this scale and doing it not actually at uni, because that's when like certain complications could happen and everything. So seeing how you find it when you're doing your immersive pieces.
Which was brilliant. I love the stick hand.
Really, I think you've come in. It was nice.
Fantastic.
None of my students went, but there we go. Rubbish. Drama did, none of the creative writing. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah. Really
hardcore.
I know, it was like I was going, where are we going next? And it was just so like interesting. We'd give him a sign and then a stamp, and I was like, and then me and Skill were like, which way should we go? We're going this way. And then we got back and we were like, oh, we're going that. And then suddenly Max go, like that. And every time we're in something, there's the dark side, sort of like plunging into darkness, I thought someone's going to come. But you always had that element of, is someone going to pop out suddenly? And then you'd hear laughter, and then there'd be someone coming another day. It was just incredible, and the echoing as well.
Yes, great space.
Amazing
nightmare of space, but great space.
So do you want to fire away?
Of course. So when using technology and media in your pieces, what have been your limitations?
Money. It's very expensive. And especially doing a found space, as we found, all my work is made in found space, is that it's not cabled, so you don't think about that. It's not really, the space we were in for stick out, no electricity, no running water, nothing.
Wow.
So you have to run your tech somehow, so you have to put in routers and cabling, so all that costs money that we didn't put in the budget.
Okay.
And the actual kit itself isn't expensive. The kit's shit cheap. Oh, sorry.
That's right.
The kit's cheap. You buy it on the internet from the Americans. What is really expensive is people. So technology is coming along leaps and bounds, and actually what you can do with very cheap technology is extraordinary, but what you need at the end of that technology is a brain, and you need to go, actually, I'm going to spend some time investigating this. So people is what we thought at the beginning of the process tech would cost us. Tech cost us £2.50. The people to do it cost us a lot of money. But also the old school tech cost the money, which is projectors. Projectors cost us an absolute fortune. And I'm very interested in the melding of film and especially projection mapping with life narrative. So that was what was surprising. I think we expect to spend a lot on kit, and then actually no, some of that stuff. The dolls cost 100 quid a piece, and most of that is people time making them. So the girl who made them all by hand. So about 110, 120. And the actual kit inside, the actual heartbeat inside, I hope yours worked. Cause
yes, mine did, yeah. So you went off, I was like, wow.
Yeah. That's a solid, I can never say the word, anyway. It's very, very cheap. It's just it's a piece that bangs up and down. What is expensive is in Kyle's way of making that work, and him spending 2 weeks testing and retesting and making that one piece work. And, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that was the surprise. And that's what everybody is, that's what we've learned. Yeah. And it's what we won't do. And we didn't have enough feet on the ground to do all of the input of that work either. So you also just need a lot of guys with feet and hands and some part of brain who can help the creative team put it in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we didn't do that, and the creative team ended up doing it and getting very cross.
Yeah.
Oh, these things happen. Yeah. So, how do you get new and interesting ideas when using media? So, not one of your pieces are the same when using tech, because it can be quite easy to use similar things over and over again.
Never ever start with the tech. Start with the tech or start the story.
Yeah.
So, for instance, with Stick House, I wanted a doll that would have a heartbeat. That was it. I don't know how it was going to be done, don't know if it could have been done, don't care. I've got guys to do that.
Yeah.
So the ideas have to come to the narrative and they have to be embedded in the narrative.
Yeah.
Early on, I was seeing a lot of tech and going, oh, that's lovely, I could use it, that's lovely, I could use that. And then, of course, my technologist was going, but it doesn't fit the story. It doesn't do anything. So we sat down and we worked out that if you use tech, it has to do one of 4 things. It's been a while since I've done this talk, so I've done this talk many times. It has to push narrative on, develop character, lead audience, create an atmosphere.
Yes.
And if it doesn't do one of those 4 things, get rid of it. Because there'll be lots of people coming up to you with shiny little gizmos that are extraordinary, and you'll go, oh, we want a bit of that. It's trinkets, put it aside, and you have to be very clear with each other that those are the 4 things you need tech for, and if they don't do it. And if they don't fit your narrative entirely and serve the audience, not you, if they don't serve the audience. We talked a lot about awe and wonder. That's what our company is about, is that we wanted to instill in the audience a sense of awe and wonder. So that also in one way is a 5th way, is if it doesn't do that, then we will pull it out. Yeah. So the kit is, so for instance, I'm just start work on a new show called The Ice Road. And I have started the narrative, I started thinking of the story, and then I realised that in the research I've done, I'm about to go to St. Petersburg and do a bit more, to the story, apples were really, really important.
Okay.
So I would like to carry on some of the tropes of the Stick House. So everybody will get an apple when they go in, or they'll find an apple in a barrel and it'll have something on it that will identify you. And then what will happen is the apples will start to glow and you start to realise that they're actually the light source for the show. So you do. But then one of them, which is bigger than the others, the top will come off and the projection will come through the apple onto the ceiling. So he'll take the top off and hold it up.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
No idea I'm going to do it. But that's what I want to do. So that, then I go to my tech team, Kyle and Alex and Tom, and go, work this out.
Yeah.
And I know it can be done. I've got it in the back of my mind now. I've got a little sense of we're just going to need a mini GoPro projector. We just need him to stand in a certain space, and I can make him do that. I can make an audience member move to a place. So the ideas must come first.
Yeah. Yes.
And then it's up to and then it's up to the tech team to tell you no, it can't be done. I want to work with hologram. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
I know that. And to work with Pepper's Ghost, that's cheaper. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is you Wizard of Oz it, as they say at Pervasive Media Studio, which if it's
that's what you say, isn't it? Yeah. Wizard of Oz,
If it's the simplest answer, use the simplest bloody answer, don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah. That's true.
So the dolls in the Stick House, originally the idea was that they would pick up your heartbeat. So the heartbeat that they are given is your heartbeat.
Wow.
And then Claire Reddington, head of PM Studio, said, don't be fucking stupid. They're going to have to wear a wire, it's going to cost you a fortune. Just do a heartbeat and audiences will start to think it's theirs if it goes long enough.
Yeah, the imagination kind of like... Yeah.
So the most expensive answer isn't the answer.
Right.
But people's ability to apply the tech to a narrative is the answer.
Shall we do two turns?
Yeah.
Is that alright? Yeah, so mine's going to be a bit more based on the writing side of things and also the immersive side.
Yeah.
It's so interesting what you just said there though, because again, it's always linking it back to why you're doing it, because some of the things we come up with in terms of visually, oh that's great, or we could do that, and it's like, but what does that do in the story? So I've got to keep doing that, because when I'm writing I do get carried away, and I need to stop and go, hold on a minute, that's beautiful, but it might not be practical, and also it just doesn't work with the story necessarily. So, mine first one is actually I might go to the immersive first, that's alright.
Yes,
thank you. Would be what immersive techniques in particular do you feel help the audience connect and engage with the work?
I think the placards, so giving them, so the idea I always had, and I couldn't afford to do it again, I couldn't afford to do it. The show cost £200,000, by the way.
Wow.
Oh yeah. So I couldn't afford to do everything I wanted to do, so I'm looking at a £400,000 show, I think. One of the things I wanted to do is that the immersive experience started before you even got to the theatre.
Right.
So on the way, your phone would go, and there would be some kind of either music. It was going to be music. That music at the end, the aria, would play that down a phone to you. Wow. So you start to, and then you start to see things on the way to the theatre that you recognise might be in the show. A poster, a man in an ice cream van, all sorts of bits and pieces. At the end of the show, you realise actually were people in the show along the way. So the immersion for me is always about it starting before and ending after. So the idea I also had was on the way home your phone would go and you'd hear the beast roar down the telephone at you. So that you were never quite sure where the show was and wasn't. And that's important. Keeping them wrong-footed a little bit, but safe. If you're going to be looking to a theatre audience and not a tech audience, they're different. Theatre audiences are still a little bit nervous and immersive. You be gentle and you guide them. Don't let them have a wander. Tech audiences will wander and have an explore. Theatre audiences don't want that. It makes them unsafe. But you guide them without them feeling bullied. I think for us, you know, the signs on the chest, which were a last minute thought, and the stamp on the hand, and them coming together as a community right at the beginning really helps. And that's why the dolls are there. The dolls are there to, when they start heart beating, is to signal anxiety, but more important is to build a community. So that when the dolls are in the bucket and you have to call to each other, is where you start to come together. We had also worked on a programme on Bristol University about identifying the alpha male in the group, so that we would push that alpha male to start all the action off. But we worked on that programme and our funding ran out, so I couldn't finish it. But the idea would be that you would ask questions when you buy a ticket, you'd be asking a series of questions, and Bristol University psychology students would go, that's the alpha male, or that's the alpha female, and that's who you need to go to. So that we knew we had a group dynamic leader that we could appeal to make the action move in case nobody came forward. In the end they did anyway. So, but it was an interesting experiment. A lot of stuff you'll think of and throw it out, by the way. It's disappointing, but it happens. So with immersion, it's about building a community where that group of people feel safe enough to take the risk together and they're not singled out. So they all came together, they were all laughing when the dolls were going out, and they all started chatting, and especially when they go into the stick house, is then we start looking at each other into light and they're all in space. So at some point get them close together, so that they have to gel. But most importantly for me, immersion starts before they even go through the front door. It's true actually, because I came by myself and I met a girl there and we both went in together. It was just that kind of like, and we started talking, and actually it was really good. Actually, we found lots of different ideas. But it made you feel like you're together in it. You're all kind of complicit in the whole story as well. Together, and give them a character. We talked ages and ages and ages and ages, the longest time about who the audience are. And I was convinced the audience would be a character in that play. That they can't be just observers. Because if you're going to suspend disbelief and immerse, then they can't just be observers. They've got to be something. Whether that's the villagers, whether that's the Jewish population in our case, which didn't quite pull up, people didn't quite understand it, but they are the Jewish community from the village who are about to be sort of, put on the trains and taken away. Is give them something to be and reveal it. Because the old tricks are as good as the new where immersion is concerned. So I was very aware that the labels on the dolls were handwritten, because I wanted old technology as well as new. But where immersion's concerned is get that group built as fast as you can and do not single anybody out. It makes them uncomfortable and it makes them cross. Right. So if they're going to do something, they do it together. Right. And it's very clear. And immersion-wise, what we started with is I realised that my audience wasn't going to be 100% theatre. I think my audience was going to be about 70% cinema, and actually it was higher. Right. Because of watersheds involved. Well, watersheds involved was massive. Yeah. And so what I decided to do is the ordering of that play was I would do film first. And that you would watch it like a normal film. So everybody fucking relaxed. And yes. You go through a dark door, a little black door, you're going in, it's all, you know, and then I just said, and we were thinking about ways that we could do projection in different ways on the floor, on the ceiling, on people's faces, you know, and I went, let's just make it a fucking cinema. Let's just get that wall, and everybody stands and just has a moment to breathe. Yeah. And it's a little bit of the story. It's just Marietta as a child. That's all, but it's nice and it's happy. Yeah. And everybody goes, oh, it's not scary, because everybody was worried it's going to be scary. Yeah.
Yes, because that's what they link to immersive theatre.
Especially with people like Punch Drunk and Chainsaws, and they assume that's all going to be what
part
that
of
is.
The process. Yeah, because it's actually interesting. Like the girl I went round with, she'd seen Punch Drunk. She said it's very interesting the difference. Because in Punch Drunk, that you take people away sometimes and do a one-on-one. Yeah. She said this one was very much more. We were in the journey together all the time, kind of thing. So, I was going to say in terms of style and content, how when you're playwriting. How do you make sure one doesn't take over the other? I mean, that's probably to do with the narrative again, how you use the immersive kind of experience to enhance the story you're telling. But
so it wouldn't take how does tech not take over narrative? That was what we got the funding for. So what we decided to do, just to give you a little bit of background very quickly, is I am a playwright and I write normal contemporary British drama. And my latest play is about Belfast. But I had an idea that I wanted to do an Angela Carter piece, and I found that I probably wanted to do it with some kind of tech to make it a bit more sparkly. So I talked to Claire Renton at Pervasive Media Studio. I'm very lucky, she's a friend of mine. I'm very lucky I used to work there. So
good to have contact.
It is. And I just said to her, I need to talk to creative technologists. And then she gave me a residency straight away. She went, looking at residency, we need theatre to break technology. We haven't made it work. And Punch Drunk isn't technology, Punch Drunk is immersion, but it's not technology. It's just a nice big set, and I don't like Punch Drunk, but there we go. And then she married me with a guy called Tom Burton, who was quite a big creative technologist in Bristol, and we sat down and I went, I am not interested in writing a play and you illustrate it with technology. We have to do this together. So we wrote it together, and Tom didn't know jack shit about theatre. Tom never goes to the theatre. He's a technologist. Very interesting.
Ooh, wow.
He didn't know who Angela Carter was. He had to read all about Angela Carter. He had to go to the theatre with me. And then I do know quite a bit about tech, but not a huge amount. So we did it his way, and his way was not an easy way for me, because his way was testing, his way was mapping everything out, his way is milestones, his way is Excel spreadsheets. Right. My way is bits of paper put on a wall going, what's the world look like? But we did it together, and one was not an adjunct to the other, is what we said in our funding bid, is they are built side by side. So he helped me build the story. I had a kind of idea of the story, but he helped me build the story, and then I helped him realise what tech we might need. And that took 6 months. Wow. So long. It's 4 years actually.
Wow.
So, I mean, I'm working full time, I've got 2 jobs, but there's a lot of thinking to be done. There's a lot of consideration, and so that was the absolute thrust of it. Is that they would serve each other, and that I would remain as a playwright totally flexible, and that play was still flexible 3 days before we went up.
I suppose being in the space changes it a little bit.
It changes it hugely, absolutely changes it hugely. With my director Anna, she was going for a go, we can't do that here, and with the tech, we can't do some of the tech there either. It just always went, it's just not going to work. So I wanted bigger, bolder, better. The bit where the hobbledehoy is on the mound.
Oh, that was amazing, the robots.
Oh yeah, I love my robots. They never fucking work, they never fucking work. And then everybody stood on them.
No. So I have to be really careful not to.
One of them was 800 quid and I stood on it. Anyway, so the mound, he comes out the mound, and that was meant to happen. So it was meant to be a mound. He comes out the mound and like a Caliban and goes, you know, this is it. But what was meant to happen is out the floor arrives a galaxy of stars, and they come up in the air and they rotate, and they're beautiful. It's our galaxy. It's actually a projection mapping of our galaxy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And you can see through it. So it just, and the idea is that you have a moment of rest and a moment of beauty. Also, watch horror films. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But I couldn't afford all the projectors, so I couldn't do it. So I just had to do that back thing, and that disappointed me because in that space it couldn't be done. And I was a bit disappointed with that. And I must be honest, at one point I went to my projection office. I don't fucking like it, you know, shit. And they were like, "What's the best we can do in this space?" So you got to prepare to be a bit disappointed. Especially with you have no budget, so I was really excited.
Very old-fashioned.
So the space, that immersion and the space, but always go back to the audience, every time, and not many words, please.
Okay.
I found my play was overwritten for that. For what that is, for digital technology, there's very little dialogue because you're showing so much. You don't need to tell as much as you do.
Very, very quickly before you go to your next, because it's like, oh, so nice. Like, because obviously you've got such an area of being able to playwright and such expertise in that area. How do you start? What's the structure that works for you best when you're starting to put a story together? Does it post-it notes? How do you formulate, start to really create that?
I've always had, as a playwright, I always have had a nest of ideas. I call it as a box file just full of shit, bits of materials that I've collected. But I think for immersion and tech, it's really looking at the stories that are the most elastic. So the current thinking in terms of ideas for Raucous is that I realised that we had to, for our first show in this way, considering we didn't know what we were doing, is we probably had to go magical realism because it's the way tech works best. And the audience will get tech. So you can be magical with your tech, and that's nice and easy. And to some extent, it was. So Tom and I said to Tom, I want to write Angela Carter-like. I don't want it to be Carter, but it's magical realism, and I'm a great feminist, so I'd quite like it to have some kind of feminist agenda. That was all we had. And then we sat down and we kind of read every single Angela Carter we could get our hands on. I didn't agree on Angela Carter, so I kind of knew. We sat and we read them all, and then we took the rules of her world, we took all the symbols and everything, and then we started talking about an original story that came up. So that was an easy way for us to start. It's a story that, like we've got with Red Shoes, it's a story that exists, but then breaking it down and seeing how you can turn it, twist it, make it into something else. But magical realism with Tick is the first way to go, it's great. Now, I'm not interested in that anymore. Magical realism, I've done it. I'm interested in how we do realism with tech. So my next show is about the siege of Leningrad in 1941 and the winter of starvation. And some children who have lost their parents and are trying to get on the ice road, which is the way out of Leningrad. So I'm going to have a little area of magicalness in it, but it's from the children's perspective. The children have built a religion, and it's that we're seeing. But the conditions in which they exist are real, and it's historically factual. And we're going to use technology within that. That's all I've got. And I'm about to sit down with my team of 17 of us and go, we're going to have a day together. Go, this is what I've got, this is what I'm interested in, this is what I'm thinking about. Go. And then everybody will start throwing things at me and going, well, you can't do the apples, or I think apples are a shit idea, or what happens when they're going to die, it's always best to do it in a collaborative way.
Definitely.
So I can get
you get stuck. I'm not interested in just my head, it's not really that interesting. But also the boys will then say, and it is normally boys in tech, I'm afraid still, will go, oh, but I've seen this thing that could be really nice for that, and it's like, okay, you get going on that. And then I include them, I'll write some up, we'll have a read through a really early Jaws draft with everybody, just go, what do you think? And they're like, oh, that's a bit boring, that bit, or
it does help, doesn't it?
Exposition, But Tom and I, when we started writing, so it was, I like paper and pen, I'm not the highest tech girl in the world, so literally we sat in a room with flip chart paper, and we just started to map out the rules of the world, character profiles and who we might want on stage, all that basic shit, story, plot lines, narrative beats. We just stayed in that room until we came out with something and we didn't leave 4 days, yeah. And then I started drafting the words.
Yeah, came together a bit more.
Yeah. So we had a big, I'm so sorry, I didn't bring my thing with me. My laptop, I've got a picture of all of that. All that thinking, so...
You can always give an email address.
Yeah, give me an email address, send me an email address and I'll send it over to you. Because I've got pictures of, and then we showed the world, so the world came to a meeting, the public came, to have a look at the walls of our room so they could...
So we're using children, we're doing workshops with children to get their ideas, and then we're going to use some of what they've come up with as projections on the wall, alongside with the children, our performers of children. So hopefully that kind of marries together.
Because we want to try and make our audience feel like they're reverting back to being a child and their childhood. So we're really interested in using that tech aspect and then marrying that with the story. Like you said, how that works best.
It also gets ideas for script writing, they'll come up with a sentence, I'm like, that's quite a good, useful So it's coming from them almost in a blatant kind of way, but not. So
just do your research. I mean, you know, with Angela Carter, we went back for everything she'd ever said, everything she'd written, you know, all the interviews she'd done. We went back through Grimm's, we went through Russian fairytale, we went through Icelandic fairytale, we went through loads of stuff. And now with Stickhouse, the Ice Road, you know, I'm doing the same, but I'm hoping actually to go to Leningrad and talk to some people who were actually in the winter of starvation. So always do your research. People don't think you need it, but you do in tech.
Well, you're a dramaturg as well.
I am,
So that kind of feeds into really getting to the core of everything we're looking at. And the new play, where is it going to be?
We don't know yet. So with Stickhouse,
I'd love to see it.
The Arts Council wants Stickhouse to go somewhere else, so we're looking at Manchester, Glasgow or New York at the moment, funny enough, which would be amazing. But the ethos of the company is that we make that theatre piece for a specific space. So we would always want to premiere in Bristol, but Bristol is really difficult to find. The reason this project took 4 years is one of those years was trying to find a space. Just waiting to go. It was really frustrating. So we would always premiere in Bristol if we could, because we are a Bristol company. So I don't know. I got my eye on a couple of places, but it's really proving hard to find out who owns them.
It's really hard. And the tunnels have been used since 70 years?
70 years. Full of rats, and it was a nightmare. We'll never do that again. So excited about space, and then just not really thinking about the financial ramifications of putting in toilets and running water and electricity and getting to the rats and everything else.
Oh, crikey, sorry, do you want to go?
So with the Stickhouse, what was satisfying, like when you saw everything come together?
The fact that it had just come together, the fact we made something, because it was it is the toughest thing I've ever done, and really incredibly difficult. I think the fact that we took a risk and pulled it off, I'm disappointed in certain parts of it. There are certain parts of it, my imagination was bigger than the tech I could afford. So I had set myself up for a bit of a fall. There were certain moments of it. The rape scene at the end was not what I wanted. And I'd wanted animation of crows with wings behind them that we'd had an animator do. And an animator, it's 400 quid for a piece of animation. It's really expensive. But once again, we couldn't afford projectors, because the projectors had to be put in special casing because it's damp in there. So it cost a fortune. So there were certain moments I didn't, but I think on the whole, what was really pleasing was I was so shocked by the response of the audience. Completely nutty. We thought we might sell 30% if we were lucky.
You're sold out, wasn't it, I think?
We sold 92% of a 6-week run. So I think the most amazing thing worked for me was that people wanted it. And I didn't really realise quite how badly they did want it. And I think the most exciting thing for me is the crossover between cinema and theatre, which I was really grateful for. So Watershed, God love, I used to work at Watershed, so I do know how fortunate I am that I'm really well connected. Put on the trailer and Stickhouse before every film for 2 months before the show.
That's useful.
So 80% of our audience for cinema would never go to the theatre. I mean, the Arts Council fucking love us, you know. So I think it was that, but also I think it was as exhausting and horrific and awful as it was, getting that show in there, is at the end every member of my creative team worked. We worked 14 hours a day for 11 days solid. is that everybody just down tools and got on with it.
Yeah.
We all fell out, we all had massive rows, but
Oh,
at the end of the day, they carried on with it. So I think the audience reaction probably was my biggest. I think the stick house was the biggest challenge, building a stick house that got 50 people in, and we were lucky that we had a space that was arched, so we could skin it and build it around it. But I was always, it's what I stuck to. When my designer said, we cannot afford a house that 50 people walk in, I said, then there is no show. I want a house with 50 people in it. That's popular. So it's knowing creatively also where you're not going to compromise. And say to everybody else, you have to try and make it work. But I think it was just literally, I thought the audience would go, it's alright. They're just going,
loved it. People were raving about it when they came out. They're like, and then there was this bit, and that's the nice bit. Oh, there's the chat as well. And you're like, and she went, I thought this was going to happen. They were like, and then that happened, and it was just really lovely. It's a nice communal kind of catch up at the end as well.
You come out the bar was nice. I think that journey through the bars that people could stop and and it was also audiences who were generous in finding me and going, I really enjoyed that, but also it was really nice that audiences went, that was a lot of work. And we appreciated
it.
I didn't expect that either, because theatre we just take it for granted. But I think because it's immersive, they see it up close, and then they go, shit, that's a film on its own. That's a film on it. And they realise the effort that goes into it, and that was what most people were saying to me. Because I said to them, was it a bit shit then? And they were like, no, it was great. But I'm just saying the thing that struck us all is how much work it was.
And there was some real wow moments as well. It's like, and then that happens, and it just captured that kind of like fantasy, really, kind of being in a kind of dream world almost, but that you're there and real. It's just almost like feeling the actor's breath on your face and things like that. It just makes you feel so like it's very visceral in that sense, and you do feel like you're in the moment. I was going to say as well, I read somewhere that you said it was like a game in a way. It's that it's very cinema based. I know you mentioned that before, but there's a game aspect to it.
Sort of. I was very aware that I'm not that keen on gamification. It's called. So in the Pervasive Media Studio where we're based now, a lot of the boys, and someone said it's nearly all boys, it's not a girls' game at the moment. So when they talk about digital technology, they talk about some aspect of gaming, there's always some game involved. And then at Pervasive Media Studio, when they talk about theatre and tech, they're talking about gaming, they're talking about live action role play. Basically, they're talking about gaming. So you often, at PM Studio, what you often do is, you're on your own, you've got headphones, you have to navigate on the streets of Bristol, you have to knock 3 times on the door, somebody opens it, they give you a message, all that shit. I can't stand it. I hate it because I feel unsafe. Well, what if I knock on the wrong door? Will I break the game? Will I get it wrong? It makes me really nervous, and I'm a theatre audience. So I wanted a tiny hint of just being able to find something out for yourself. That's it, one moment, and that was finding your doll. That's it. And I think the next show, I will keep one moment where you have to do something as a group and find something. And I think it'll probably be with the apple, is putting the guy in the right place so that when he opens it up, we get the next bit of narrative out of the apple. I think it'll be that, and finding the guy with the right apple. One apple will be bigger and redder than the others, and I think you'll be given a message about it. That's it. So if there's any gaming in it, if there's anything like you have to find something out, you'll do it together as a community. If you do it on your own, I hate it. Because I just feel I'm going to break something, or I'm going to look foolish. And everybody else is going to get it, and I'm not. And Punchman, in their early days, did a lot of that, and I didn't like it.
No.
That's interesting. Thank you. Definitely. Do you want to...
No.
Oh, okay, keep going. Sorry, there's just a couple more on the long list. Thank you so much, though. This is so helpful. So I guess what was the kind of main experience that you wanted the audience to have in your production piece, and also what's the main message that I've made up, because I think we all interpret it differently, but I was wondering what was the main crux of the message, because I know you've looked into Angela's work, where she twists fairy tales and things.
I think there was a review. The reviews were good, some weren't. There was a reviewer who disliked the fact that my feminist sensitivity wasn't hers. So what she wanted basically was Marietta to be a sort of Lara Croft, gun-toting, kick ass, kill the beast, kill the woodcutter, all that, which is quite big in Carter. In Carter, the heroine's mother normally kills the beast.
Yeah.
So women sisters are doing it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's not reality.
No.
The reality, I wanted to show what I feel the reality of women's place in society is, to be cynical. And that place, I always feel still, unfortunately, is that we are still at the whims and vagaries of men.
Yeah.
And that sometimes the best things we can do is just try and make a decision out of two bad choices.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I feel sometimes that's what we are. That's where we are still. And it disappoints me. And that's what I wanted to say.
Right.
Is that so that her decision making, at least she has a decision. It's shit, it's this or this. But she makes a decision and she decides to go where she's safe. And there's a lot of women in this world who have to make, not me and you, but there's a lot of women in this world who have to make decisions just to be safe.
Yeah.
And if they have to bend to being safe, that's fine. But I think at the moment with women, the world is being so cruel and disgusting. The rise of ISIS, for instance, is something that particularly fucks me off, obviously. The rise of, being politically insensitive. Burqas, I disagree with burqas, really, really harsh. If the men wear burqas, fine, but not just because I've got breasts in the front. So what I was trying to say was that not everybody understood, and I didn't really want them to be honest. Lots of people think she dies at the end, but she doesn't. She goes to him, and that's the opening of the doors, that's when she opens the gates to his house, is that she can go back to a world that will hate her and do bad by her. And whether that's Nazi Germany or Syria, I don't know. Or she can go to a place that is safe, but it's not necessarily what she wants. Or what she's. We can't all be free, I think I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So just trying to be realistic in its feminism, and that we don't kick ass, and we still can't kick ass. We're still not being paid the same as men. Folks say we can't kick ass.
No.
Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
My old man don't even bloody do the washing up still,
And in the arts were particularly as well.
And in the arts we're particularly buggered, and in
Yeah.
tech, well, I'm a lone female boy most of the time. So that's what I wanted to say, and I think Angela Carter always has a woman kill the beast, and I wanted to go, that's not how it is.
Yeah.
That's lovely, but we cannot kill the beast. Look at the rape statistics in this country, it's disgraceful.
Yeah.
Fucking disgrace. So I wanted women to come out and really go, yeah, she's right,
Yeah.
we think we've got choice, and actually we ain't got that much. It's this or this, So on one level, but somebody, I had 2 reviews, be very careful because it's all politics. I had 2 reviews, one castigated me for being a non-feminist and making a victim, which I took exception with, and the other one calling me anti-Semitic, which I really took exception because I'm Jewish.
That's crazy.
The whole review.